All right, we're live. This is the road back from Donner. So, during my Donner hard enduro experience, it was tough. Obviously, there's all the things you do in order to get there. Let me switch. I'm gonna go like this. Okay, there's all the things you do to get to Donner and make it to the big show and stuff. There's the preparation. Oftentimes you spend your whole year or 6 months or whatever getting ready for it by doing the harder rides and going out with your friends and challenging yourself to do similar obstacles. There's that part of it. There's the bike maintenance, right? So I constantly am trying to make sure I take care of my bike, make sure that if there's a issue, address it. The harder terrain stuff usually is harder on the bike. You kind of get battered and bruised and you break some stuff and you got to stay up on it. My experience with Donner had an issue of my starter failing, but I had no signs before the event. I showed up at the event, unloaded my bike, and my starter was acting up. So I'll dive into that a little bit today. But I kind of wanted to just show some of the other things that, I did in preparation. First off, my pipe, this is some of the effects of riding the harder terrain stuff. You get banged up. So I'm constantly pulling off my pipe, reshaping it, trying to bend the dings back out of it. There's some great tools available online to be able to bend them back. God, man, what a mess that is, huh? So bending bike pipes can be sketchy, but I use the one that requires heat and pressure, which sounds like a horrible idea because, that sounds like something's gonna explode, but I still do it because pipes are expensive. I like to try and utilize them as long as I can before throwing them away. Let's see. Okay, well, before I showed up, I got a new piece. I did a short video on me installing this Crosslink Components chain guide, and I'm super happy I had that on there because I had no problems with my chain. Last year, I had my chain fly off within the first 5 minutes, not because my chain was bad, but because I got wedged on a rock that was narrow, and it pushed my chain off of the sprocket on the rear, and then I had to stop and take the time to put it on. Now there's like 16 people behind me in this spot, so it wasn't easy to do that safely. So I did it quickly, which almost cost me a finger because as I was putting it on, I rolled my bike. I almost had my hands in the chain. So super stoked on the Crosslink Components chain guide. That thing did great. It took a bunch of hits. I mean, this was fairly new before we went out there. Took a bunch of hits. It's still straight as an arrow on there. There you go. It's not bent or been mangled or anything at all. Crosslink also makes those swing arm guards super savvy. Really nice to have. I got the Bulletproof Designs rotor guard. You can see that thing has taken some hits, not all at Donner. But one thing I didn't think I was gonna need this time, though I've encountered this on some other bikes, so I should have known better, was the clutch cover. And with our controls being so close to the clutch cover, if you look right here, the typical injury that these sustain is the brake lever comes up and busts your clutch lever, and that's what happened to mine. So I didn't know it during the race, but I was leaking oil out of there, and so that's another part I'm gonna have to get it replaced. One of the hits that I was kind of surprised my bike took was on the brake caliper and brake caliper hose mount. Took a hit. Let me get back over there. So let's see. Right here took a hit, and I'll say this too. Before I left, I noticed that my brake caliper pin has a pin that goes within the pin, and it had been missing. And one of my buddies last year had to race nearly the entire race without that brake pin and brake pads or front brakes because that little clip had fallen out. The pin moved into the spokes, and then just left him without brakes. So that was tough. So yeah, before every race, check that caliper pin. Thank you. Check that caliper pin and make sure the other pin isn't missing. My starter, let's get back to my starter. So that's kind of what stopped me from continuing in the race. I was able to start the race even though I didn't have my starter. I actually pulled up to the line with my bike running, and I told the guy next to me, like, hey dude, I'll keep my hands off until everybody's gone. And so that's what I did. I had my hands up. They started the race. Then I put my hands down, put it in gear, and then left. And I figured that would be sufficient to be trying to be fair. I didn't want to go ask for my money back and be like, hey, my starter doesn't work, and so can you guys let me race or next time or something? I don't know. I didn't want to have to ask. I said, you know what? Let me see if I can get as far as I can in this race with no starter. Well, I say no starter. I wound up being able to get it to work when I laid my bike on its side, and I should probably show that. So I'm so long-winded. I'm glad YouTube lets me do these live videos. I'm gonna take off this cover. I think I still have everything hooked up. I could probably still do this. So I actually saw a video of a similar thing happen, or somebody showing how their starter was acting, and I was like, hey, that's crazy. I've seen this before. Oh, there's another bolt. There's always another bolt. Give a little tug and then stop, because there's always another bolt. I'm gonna do that. That almost works. Okay. I'm gonna take the little gear, Bendix gear out, if I can. You can. I just don't know if I can. Right now. Am I drunk? Come on, let's go. I know this thing just wants to come right out right now. It's just waiting on me to be kind about it. Actually did this faster, track side. There we go. Okay, we got that out of there. That's the starter Bendix. You know, when you hit the starter, this shoots out because it starts to spin. It shoots out and engages with the gear that's permanent on here. It does not freewheel on this. Now, some starter designs have a freewheel on the gear that is on the engine, however it turns. Now, it doesn't always come through the stator or generator side, so that's not always consistent, but it is really common. So sometimes this freewheels, so it is a constantly meshed gear or constant mesh gear. Like the transmissions, a constant mesh transmission means that the gears never aren't interlocked, but they aren't always locked to the shaft. That's kind of a different story, so I won't get into that. But this one has a Bendix, which means the gears are not constantly meshed. the gear actually slides in. So when I pulled my bike off the trailer, what I had happen was I hit the button and there was no sound. Or, I'm sorry, there was only a click at the starter solenoid. I didn't hear a bzzz, like my starter was spinning, but the Bendix wasn't engaging, or the gear wasn't engaging with the other gear. Mine was different. My my solenoid made noise. I had nothing else. Now, two of us in the pit were aware that that meant that the solenoid was engaging, but either the solenoid wasn't passing voltage to the starter, or the voltage was getting to the starter, but nothing was happening. So once we found out that we confirmed that voltage was making it to the starter cable at the starter, and then we said, oh God, it's the starter. And on this engine, dude, the starter has to come out by taking out the engine. You think, oh man, maybe you can wiggle it out. No, you can't. You cannot wiggle out the starter. There's no getting around it. You're pulling the engine, or at least pulling all the engine mounts. You don't have to pull it out of the frame. I know some dude did it on the interwebs. So you're pulling the starter by pulling the engine. I didn't want to do that at the track, and I wasn't really equipped to do that at the track, so I didn't want to try. So we banged on it. My buddy, he grabbed a hammer, he gave it a little whack, and all of a sudden it started working a little bit, and that was amazing. You know, it's like the experience of knowing that, you know, if you tap it just the right way, maybe it'll free up, things will start working. And that can work sometimes if it's just a little hang up. However, I went for a ride, continued for 15 minutes or so, and then set the bike aside, and then came back and it had problems. Did it again and got it working again. And then right before the race at Donner, it started snowing and there was lightning and there was a delay. My bike was working when I set it aside. We went and stayed warm inside the van. Then it was like, okay, you got 10 minutes to get to the grid. Went back out, starter wasn't working. So at that point, I took apart my generator cover like I've done here, the stator cover or generator cover. And I wanted to take a look at the starter and see what was going on here. And let's see if my results are the same here. Oops, let's see. This is gonna be really hard to do. Okay, not that hard though. So here we go. If I put some pressure on this, oh, it's not doing it now. It's gonna make a liar out of me. Okay, don't hit it while your fingers touch it. Oh, wait, I have the starter cable unplugged, that's right. I'm kind of preparing to pull the engine, obviously, so I got ahead of myself. I wanted to do a little video and show people what had happened. Maybe I'll document what my solution is. I want to take apart the starter and rebuild it because I don't like wasting things. I like to do things and repair things rather than replace. So when at all possible, I like to do that. Okay, here we go. So clicky click, nothing. I'm gonna push in on the shaft. It almost did it. Boy, it really doesn't want to do anything now. Yeah, there we go. All right, so maybe I can set this up. No, that's not working. It's so hard. I need a camera person. My wife was here. She's a pretty good camera person. Now, okay, so let me just do this. What had happened there is when I was at the track, I pushed in on this and noticed that it would spin when I was pushing in. It was able to make contact, and all of a sudden it was spinning, and that was great. Except for when I had it upright like this, it wouldn't work. So I wondered if just the weight of this shaft moving that way would allow it to start. And sure enough, I put all this back on, laid the bike on its right hand side, the weight shifted over, and then my starter was working. So I thought, well, if I have a couple moments where I crash or something, maybe I can pick up the bike or lean the bike on its right hand side, start it, and then pick up the bike and go. So that's what I did. And I actually didn't stall until I got to Spectator Hill. And on Spectator Hill, there was a fella who had gone up it right before me. And then he crashed. He launched the bike up, but he fell back down. So he walked around and back up. And then as he was going back up to his bike, I went, but you don't see him because that Spectator Hill thing is pretty tall. So I didn't see him walking until I got to the peak. And then he was right there, and that was terrifying because I thought, I'm about to crush this guy. I stepped off the back of my bike and like held it in a wheelie for a moment, just long enough for him to get out of the way. Somebody caught an image of it. It was pretty rad. I hope there's a video out there. I see all kinds of people were taking videos, but I don't know. Hopefully I can find video of that because I'm kind of curious how it all went down, just to analyze it. So I made it past Spectator Hill. I made it 2 checks. I got to a section that was really tough, and I thought if I got in there and my starter couldn't work, then I really didn't want to be in everyone's way, and I stopped. I stopped there. I had a great time. I helped a lot of people out in that tough spot where I stopped at, and that was fun for me. I always like being helpful on the courses. So, whatever. So I'm gonna pull this engine, pull that starter, and maybe I'll take a video of what I do there, just to share with everyone, because maybe it'll be helpful to somebody in the future. And maybe somebody will watch this video or not, whatever. All right, yeah, I'll catch you all later, and I'm ending my live stream.